Hi everyone, it's Lindsay from Fresh Up Tuition. I've been talking about pronunciation with some of my students recently, and we've been looking at some different poems that challenge the way you think about pronunciation. There are lots of words that have a pattern in our language, as in many languages, but there are also lots of words which do not meet the pattern and can be very confusing for somebody trying to learn how to pronounce each one and why we suddenly say the same sound differently in a different word, or why the plural of something is not what we expect it to be. So I'm going to share 3 poems with you today which are all challenging these different ideas about pronunciation. The first one is titled English. I take it you already know of tough and bow and cough and dough. Others may stumble, but not you, on hiccup, thorough, slough and through. Well done, and now you wish perhaps to learn of less familiar traps. Beware of herd, a dreadful word that looks like beard and sounds like bird. And dead, it's said, like bed, not bead. For goodness sake, don't call it deed. Watch out for meat and great and threat. They rhyme with sweet and straight and debt. A moth is not a moth in mother, nor both in bother, broth in brother. And here is not a match for there, and dear and fear for bear and pear. And then there's dose and rose and lose. Just look them up, and goose and choose. And cork and work and card and word, and font and front and word and sword. And to and go, then thwart and cart. Come, come, I've hardly made a start. A dreadful language, why, man alive, I'd learned to talk it when I was 5, and yet to write it the more I tried, I hadn't learned it at 55. So this was shared by someone called Noah the Ellipsis Man, and it was trying to prove that there are lots of sounds that are written exactly the same way but appear different when you hear them. And there's loads of examples in that poem for you to work with. The second one is titled English is the Queerest Language, and the author is anonymous. We'll begin with a box, and the plural is boxes, but the plural of ox should be oxen, not oxes. Then one fowl is a goose, but 2 are called geese, yet the plural of mouse should never be meese. You may find a lone mouse or a whole nest of mice, but the plural of house is houses, not heis. If the plural of man is always called men, why shouldn't the plural of pan be called pen? The cow in the plural may be cows or kine, but a bow, if repeated, is never called bine. And the plural of vow is vows, never vine. If I speak of a foot and you show me your feet, and I give you a boot, would a pair be called beat? If one is a tooth and a whole set are teeth, why shouldn't the plural of booth be called beath? If the singular is this and the plural is these, should the plural of kiss ever be nicknamed keys? Then one may be that, and 3 would be those. Yet hat in the plural would never be hose, and the plural of cat is cats, not coves. We speak of a brother and also of brethren, but though we say mother, we never say methrin. Then the masculine pronouns are he, his, and him, but imagine the feminine she, shiz, and shim. So the English, I think you all will agree, is the clearest language you ever did see. That's the second one that I like. Lots of plural words sound really different, and teaching plurals to someone can be quite complicated because of that. The third one is a little bit different in that it's looking at exactly the same word. It's spelt the same, but it is said differently. So these are also very confusing, particularly for a non-native speaker. So it's called Ever Wonder Why the English Language is So Hard to Master? And this is also anonymous. We polish the Polish furniture. He could lead if he could get the lead out. A farm can produce produce. The dump was so full it had to refuse refuse. The soldier decided to desert in the desert. The present is a good time to present the present. At the army base, a bass was painted on the head of a bass drum. The dove dove into the bushes. I did not object to the object. The insurance for the invalid was invalid. The bandage was wound around the wound. there was a row among the oarsmen about how to row. They were too close to the door to close it. The buck does funny things when the doe are present. The wind was too strong to wind the sail. After a number of Novocaine injections, my jaw got number. So each of those sentences has two words in it that look exactly the same but are said differently and have different meanings. How do we tell which is which? The sentence structure gives it away sometimes, but for someone who is learning our language, they haven't yet learnt the way our structure is formed and the fact that it is very different from other languages, particularly German, where the verb is in a different place. And it can be incredibly confusing, and the reason why lots of people never master English correctly. There is another poem that I really enjoy, but it's rather long, and I fear that I would not do it justice. So I'm going to attach a link to somebody who has practiced it quite a lot, I would say, to be able to pronounce it correctly. It was written in 1876, and the man who wrote it definitely knew his English exceptionally well, because he was able to come up with many of the most challenging words to pronounce in our language and put them together in such a way that it is incredibly difficult to read. If you can pronounce every word in the poem correctly, it is said that you speak English better than approximately 90% of native English speakers. So it's very tricky. So check that out and see what you think. Have fun with your pronunciation. Try a new word that you haven't pronounced correctly today, and let me know how it goes. Thanks very much. Bye.